Hey class, this is part 2 of our November 12th uh, review or recap. Now I want to talk to you about the quadrats and setting up for the lab. Okay, so the idea of the quadrat survey is that students will be able to identify the biodiversity and define biodiversity looking at local plants and calculating species abundance. So species abundance is something we did in our assignment last week, and students will utilize common surveying techniques. Specifically, we're going to do the quadrant. Okay, so what we're trying to do is apply the methods that scientists use to monitor biodiversity of an area, only we're going to use our own front yards or a neighborhood park. Okay, and we will make observations using a plant species within the quadrants. Okay, so when I made my quadrant this morning, it's a square frame, and inside the frame is divided up into smaller squares, and it's placed in a sample area that you can then assess the plants within the area. Okay, so for our frame, it's going to be 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters, which is about 16 inches by 16 inches. Okay, and inside the larger square is divided up, so we cut it in half each way, so we get 4 smaller squares. And the quadrant is placed on a sample area, and the population within is then assessed. We then start counting all the plants. Okay, all right, so quadrants themselves can almost be any size depending on the area you want to sample. Okay, so again, I'm picking this 40 centimeters by 40 centimeters for our lab. The idea is quadrants can be etched into slides, or for long-term investigations. You can even do permanent quadrants on the ground to see change over time. Okay, we're not doing that. We're just looking to record one layer of grass at one time. Okay, so you're going to save all your data and prepare to share it with the class. You're going to create a pie graph demonstrating the percentage covered for your quadrant. And then we will see if we get to this last part of the bar graphs for your class and the rest of the class's totals. Okay, we may not get to that. So let's look at what are you actually doing for the lab itself. Okay, loads up here. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about actually building the setup. Okay, so there's a few supplies I want you to get over the weekend. It's mostly cardboard and tape. Okay, just like it looks like. All right, so a ruler, I have a tape measure here, a pencil, tape or glue and string. The glue and string definitely work better than tape, but you know, tape will also do the job, and I do all of mine with tape here. Okay, box cutters or scissors. Recycled cardboard. I just had one piece of cardboard about 8 inches wide and at least 16 inches long, and a safe place to cut all the cardboard. So I got out a cutting board from the kitchen so that I could do all the cuts without scratching up the counter. Okay, so first thing, I'm going to measure each strip, so it's about 2 inches wide. Okay, about 5 centimeters wide. And then I go ahead and cut along each strip, so they have 4 evenly sized strips about 2 inches wide and over 16 inches or over 40 centimeters long. Okay, they can go longer, but we just need the inner dimensions of our box to be 16 inches inside the cardboard. So it needs to be more than 16 inches is what we're looking for here. Okay, mine are about 20 inches, but that's just based on the piece of cardboard I fished out of the recycling. Okay, all right, now I'm going to do a couple marks here. I mark the very center of the cardboard, and then I go out 8 inches and I mark those points as well. Okay, now I know where to put the cardboard and where to tape it down. So I set out the strips and making sure that the inner dimensions are 16 inches inside the cardboard. Okay, and then I tape down all the pieces. Okay, I'm not taping it to the counter because I'm going to pick this up. I'm just going to tape one piece to another. Again, glue would work much better, be much more stable. And then in the center piece here, going from center to center, ideally you have string so that your string can mark these out. But I also use tape because I want to make sure you clearly saw where I put that. Okay, so here we see the tape. The bad part about tape is I can't see the plants underneath the tape, which is something I definitely need to be able to document. Okay, but what this does show you is I now have 4 equally sized sections, okay, within my quadrant. I can now start my counting and my measuring and figure out how all the pieces go together. So that's what we'll be working on next week, okay? So if you get all that done and you have a nice sunny day, you want to go outside, then you can go ahead and complete the data collection using this link. All right, so if you made it this far into the video, I'm going to go ahead and show you my example following that link. Okay, so here are the instructions. I've done all the counting. Okay, you do need to do a hand drawing of all this, of all of the large features. Okay, I just put my picture in there for right now, but you do need a drawing for all this. Okay, and then a labeled photograph of the samples of the most common plants. Okay, so number 1, I have grass. Number 2, I have moss. 3, I have ferns. 4, I have clover, which is an example of a flowering plant. Okay, if you look at my picture, you'll also see got a little bit of a dandelion there. I only saw 1 dandelion, so I wouldn't call that common. Okay, so here I start counting up each individual grass plant, not blades of grass, but each individual grass plant, each individual flowering plant, whether it's clover or dandelions, each individual fern, and each individual moss. Okay, so here we get the totals of those counts for each quadrant. Okay, and then I did the relative abundance for the totals within here. Okay, notice I did not have any pine trees, there were no shrubs, and there were no leafy trees either. Okay, maybe yours does have the side of a tree, or it has something else. Just make sure when you're doing the count and the measurements, you count it if the majority of the plant is inside the frame. Okay, so if you have a small tree coming out through here, count it. If it's leaning up against a big tree and it's not majority within the quadrant, don't count it. Okay, so then we have all of our counts done. We have our relative abundance all calculated, and then we take that relative abundance and we make a pie graph. Okay, all right, and then thing I did not show you a demonstration of is there's then the conclusion questions. Those will need to be answered in complete sentences. We have over a week to work on all this, so I'm not going to go over the rest of it right now. Okay, and with that, I hope you all have a good day and a good weekend, and I will see you later.